Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Sherloc'S Roundtable. I'm RC Williams.
And I'm Julianna RC.
And we continue to work to grow community and do all of this great stuff and bring you the information that you need to come what may.
That's right.
Really.
Yeah.
So we're excited today.
We're only here to report the facts, right?
Right, just the facts, ma'am.
Just the facts.
That's what they used to say. Right?
That's right.
So we're excited to share with you today. For those of you who follow us regularly, some of this will look familiar to you, but for those of you who are new as well, we've actually done an updated version of our Parallel Economies and Power of the Nation State presentation. And she won't tell you this, but I will. Julianna has done an amazing job with this update and the information that you guys are going to get today on the podcast. I mean, I'm excited because you're actually going to be doing kind of a mini tour.
Right.
With this information and giving people the raw truth.
Right. Well, this is part one. Part two, we'll go into deeper dive of things that we're talking about today, but I'm really excited about part two.
Yeah, there's a lot coming. And I think what people will see at the end, there'll be a chance to actually join the movement.
Yes.
And the community that we've actually created around the parallel economy. People have been asking for it. Julianna RC, where can I get more of you guys? Like, do you do deep dives on this? And normally we would only do those in person. Those were either private presentations or something like that. But we've decided to create a community where all that information can be readily available to you. So I'm excited.
I'm really excited too.
Yeah. Make sure that you keep an eye on the ticker on the bottom of the screen. It will show you our incredible sponsors. And we've actually got some pretty cool deals because in all this research we do, as you guys can imagine, we test a lot of stuff. And so we find the best of the best, and then we want to share that with you as soon as possible.
Amen.
So you ready to go? You ready to roll, homie?
Let's do it, man.
All right, let's do this. So no better way to welcome our friends, if I can get the screen working here, there we go, than with a disclaimer.
Of course.
Yeah, so long and short of it, any information that you hear today, please get professional advice before making any decisions, whether it's investments, your health, financial, anything legal. Always consult competent counsel before moving forward with anything.
We do.
Yes, we certainly do.
We just report the facts.
Yes, just the facts, ma'am. So for my incredible business partner, Julianna RC, my name is RC Williams. We run a market research and advanced technology company called Sherloc. That's where a lot of this information comes from. Another interesting story is the Lab Orlando. So this is our community and business resource hub that was born out of the research that came from Sherloc.
That's right.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second because you're going to give us a backstory, really the why around this presentation and why we're doing what we're doing. So with Sherloc, for our clients and for the general public, as we share the facts, we focus in three key areas. One is market research. So in essence, you need to understand the thing, right? You need to have a basis of reference. Part two is super important, and that's competitive intelligence.
That's right.
Right? Once you have the information, what does it mean? How do you actually practically apply it for your business or for whatever you're doing with your industry or whatever you're striving to do?
Sure.
And then part three that has just exploded for us is the advanced technology side. Sherloc does a lot with custom blockchain and cryptocurrency platforms. We do architecture work. We do actual design for that type of stuff. Also in the NFT space, there's a lot of exciting stuff coming on that front, which will be a different Sherloc'S Roundtable podcast. But those are our superpowers, really, in what we do. So now that you have a bit more on us, you know what? Let's get to what we're going to cover, and then we'll talk about why. So here's what we're going to cover for you today. You guys have heard us we've used these terms on different podcasts and stuff like that. What is a nation state?
That's right.
Really important for you to understand. We'll also cover what a parallel economy actually is. A lot of people don't realize they exist already. They're all around them. And sometimes they participate in them and they don't even know it. Same thing with a nation state, right?
Right.
Then when we get to the meat, we're going to talk about how technology, based on our research, impacts your money, your governance, right? Different between government and governance, which we'll get to a bit later, and your personhood. We're going to talk about the different forms of government. Our dear friend, Pastor Paul Blair at Liberty Church in Edmond, Oklahoma, talks about the levels of government in life. So we'll get to those a bit later. And then, of course, we're going to talk solutions. And mandatory. We'll talk solutions. And then we've got some great recommendations for you, too.
Awesome.
So just the facts, ma'am. Why are we here? What's going on? Why?
Why? Because we have a country that is having a big challenge right now, and it really needs the people, right, the communities to step up and say, you know what, we need to take the torch and say, this is what we expect to see in our communities, right? So we're looking at what's community collaboration. So let's start with a backdrop real quick, right? Okay, so let me make you the smartest person in the world. Let's talk about artificial intelligence. What is artificial intelligence? Because that's going to explain why we are right here today. Artificial intelligence is very simple, 3 parts. 1 is technology. 2, that information that technology is telling you. And 3, how are you applying that information? What are you doing with that information? So technology in the hands of the right people does wonderful things, but technology in the hands of the wrong people does really wrong things. So let's also go over the levels of knowing. So if the technology is giving you that information, what do you know versus what do you not know? So I always say there's 3 levels of knowing. 1, you know that you know. Fantastic. You already know that information. 2, you know that you don't know, but you know that you can find the answer, right, to what it is that you need to know, right? But number 3, most importantly, it's the you don't know that you don't know that you need to know. And it's when you're making those decisions, when you're trying to calculate what it is that you need to do, how do you do that? You need to know all the different components to be able to go, well, I have a little bit of this and a lot of this, and it impacts this over here, which impacts that over there. And you're looking at a huge formula and saying, I need to make a decision, but I need to have all the information. So when you have all the information, now you can make the right decisions. So when our technology named Parable started telling us things that we were like, we need to have other people know what we know, because the information is so important that we can't do with this information to create the changes that we're looking to see because the information is making us nervous. So that's why we're doing the Sherlock Roundtable, just to be able to have that conversation with our community and tell them, hey, this is what we're looking at. These are the solutions that we've been looking at also. And we can't do it by ourselves. We need a community of people to help us with this.
You mentioned something earlier, and this is why we always hear start with why. You talked about technology in the right hands versus the wrong hands. And we've been public with this, and I think it's worth sharing during this podcast. We've turned down money and opportunity because it would have put technology intended for good into the wrong hands. And that's where we draw a line in the sand. Literally, if you go to our website, we have a section dedicated to what we will and will not do.
In our agreements, we have a clause that says, if you use our technology for ill, we can pull out technology from you.
At any time, right? And it's like, that's so important. Whatever you're doing is that you have to draw a line in the sand, because if you don't know what happens if your genius ends up in the wrong hands. You have to be very conscious of that, especially in the world today. Some of what we're going to see here in just a minute is going to show you just how important that is.
Well, as a side note, we developed the concept of the Give Foundation 8 years ago. Right. And eventually we met a young gentleman who said, my intellectual property keeps being stolen by these other companies. I would rather partner with you, develop the technology. We own the technology 50-50, and then you help to market it and sell it or whatever we're doing with that technology. That to me was my heartbeat. Here I had a kid, a college student, and I said, I'm going to wrap a business around you, and I'm going to help you make money because, instead of him being stolen by, Google.
Those guys.
Those guys.
The fangs.
Those things.
That's what they call them, the fangs on the stock market, all these big brotherish type of things. So, as you go through this today and we talk about the different stuff, keep that in mind. Like, it doesn't matter if you're not a market research company or an advanced technology company. If you're an average everyday American or citizen in another country in the world who understands what's going on, keep in mind, where are you going to draw the line?
That's right.
When's enough? When do you just say, you know what, it's not worth the money, it's not worth the hassle, I'm not willing to sell my soul, or put this in the wrong hands?
Well, that's why we created this movement. Because I saw a video one time, this lady said, the difference between me and my government is greater than the difference between me and you. And the difference between you and your government is greater than the difference between you and me. Right? And that was just it took down all the barriers. It's not about, well, you're this, from this country, you're from that country. We're all human beings.
Amen.
Right?
Amen.
And they want us to pin us against our races or against, we're from different countries and stuff like that. We're just a bunch of people that are saying, this is ours.
Right.
And we need to control it.
Yeah. So you guys can see we're passionate about the whys. That's why we take the time to do this for you. So you understand what you're getting into before we keep rolling. Okay. So let's do it. We came up not too long ago, because of our frustration we came up with our own Declaration of Independence.
On July 4th.
On July 4th, we wrote this. And
Yep.
so there'll be something at the end of this. It runs just under 4 minutes, but we actually recorded what we call a modern business declaration, and we've asked people to sign on. You'll have a chance to do that in a minute, but we want to play this for you so you understand exactly where things are and what we need to do.
246 years after the declaration that would forever change the world, we revisit those sacred words that sparked the birth of a nation that shines as the beacon of freedom, with a renewed passion to make clear that the blessings as a result of our founding ideals are properly understood, put to use, and never lost by future generations. Through a path of apathy, greed, and mismanagement, our governmental and economic systems of operation have created an environment that appears to be rendering aid in order to speed its own demise. These acts of economic manipulation, destabilization of national strength, and the picking of winners and losers in business through crony capitalism have crippled entrepreneurship and small business, threatening the very fabric that provides 99% of the jobs in our country. Communities and environment where entrepreneurship is the path to a better life and building generational wealth are provided endless lip service, but few tangible steps that allow for meaningful results that change lives for the better. As a result, creators and producers are made to struggle, burdened with undue expense and regulation, and provided little of the nuts and bolts education and assistance needed to build enterprises that create true, significant, long-term generational opportunity. Instead, tin-pot dictators in the public and private sectors conspire to have a few enterprises control the mean of product, distribution, and access, forcing others to shut down or be squeezed for their market share. Many of those who trumpet free market economics for everyone are instead focused on eliminating competition, stealing intellectual property, and convincing the masses that they are changing the world for the better. As the framers and signers of the Declaration of Independence said on July 4th, 1776, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute a new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. By duty, we are bound to act where others refuse, and to empower those who desire to do the same, to right the ills that are a clear and present danger to us today. Through our businesses, organizations, and affiliations, we pledge to expand our work with like minds to reverse the ills done to our nation, our economy, and our fellow citizens through the power of a nation state, an environment where like minds and interests can harness their intellectual, social, and economic capital to achieve these ends. We commit to continue to share the truth, our skills, our knowledge, and our resources to eliminate opportunity deserts in communities by driving entrepreneurship, incubating, and accelerating the principles of generational wealth, properly educating the next generation on our history, and breaking man-made generational curses designed to suppress and oppress. As did those that came before us, we declare our independence from crony capitalist power brokers, their minions, and their despotic systems. For support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we pledge our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Now is the time to act. Join us. Julianna Ormond and RC Williams, co-founders, Sherlock, the Lab Orlando, and the Give Foundation.
Makes you think, doesn't it?
Doesn't it?
Right? So you guys can actually join us. Let me go ahead and get this up here, because we actually have this. So this QR code will take you to our petition that's going to the government, right? So this is you signing this Declaration of Independence. We'd love for you to join us. People have already started to do this, and they're sharing it. We want you to join it as well. If that moved you, just recording that after we wrote it together, that in and of itself, like listening to it again, gives me chills, because you have to make those strong statements and just say enough.
That's right.
We talked about drawing the line in the sand. This is a great example of that.
Well, I know that my grandparents, all of them, did not come here to look at a country that looks like a country they ran from.
Right.
And your family didn't fight the Civil War and what they went through,
Mhm.
right? To see a country that looks the way that it does.
Right. Relatives bleed for it from Revolutionary War
That's right.
on, and it's like this isn't what they fought for.
Correct.
And that's real.
Correct.
Right. It's about as real as it gets.
And since we were the generation to kind of drop the ball, right?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, it's time for the Xers to get to work.
That's right.
Not aging ourselves, but
Well,
it's time for
I
the
mean-
Xers to get to work.
Well, hey.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah. So you guys know where we're at, right? We've talked about why we've shown you the heart, and it was exciting to be able to share that with people. So let's keep rolling. So let's talk definitions,
Yes.
because a lot of times people say, okay, so you say this nation state parallel economy, what does that even mean? Well, we're glad you asked, because common question, what the heck is a nation state, right? And we normally preface this. So we're going to ask you a question now, and then we'll ask it again at the end. Are you part of a social media group or another group that meets and is private?
Yes.
Pretty common question, right? Most people are, right? So we're going to define to you what a nation state is, and then it'll make sense. People think, if you go to the NSA search engine, that's Google, and you search for this term, they will tell you, global experts, whatever that means, will tell you that the nation state is going to destroy humanity. Now, in order for this to make sense, we had to do a graphic, so here it is. So you need three things to create a nation state. You need a desire for sovereignty. I am sovereign, you are sovereign, we choose to work together, right? We're a unified people with like minds and interests. So, question one, does that sound like it's going to destroy humanity at all?
No.
Not at all.
Empower.
It's going to empower humanity.
That's right.
Right? You guys can kind of see where this is going, in that you're being told one thing, but it's like the book 1984 and the movie 1984. It's the opposite of what it means.
It's like driving down the highway now. The fast lane's the right lane, the slow lane's the left lane. Like, are we really that?
That subject deserves its own episode of Sherloc'S Roundtable, because I know that drives you nuts, it drives me nuts. So this doesn't seem threatening, does it?
No.
So let's go back to the question we asked at the beginning. Are you a member of a private group, either online or in person, right? If the answer is yes, congratulations on your nation state. I don't think you're a clear and present danger to anybody,
no.
Right? So nation states, you'll notice that they're not geographically locked either. You can create a nation state digitally with people throughout the world. As long as it meets these three things, you've got a nation state. Right? And as we go through the research, and then we show you the solutions, you guys will see that you've either been doing this or you've been thinking about it, and now you have the pieces you need to take action. Right? Other common question. Guys, what the heck's a parallel economy? So this one, we actually give you a quote. And so here is a definition of a parallel economy. The natural evolution of free markets, allowing you to work with like minds and shared values, providing you more control over the outcomes. The last part of that is really, really important.
Very important.
It's all important, but that last part is really important. Because as it stands today, whether you believe it or not, you have very little control over the outcomes on things that affect you the most.
Well, if you're inside a system that you can't control, then
right?
That's it.
Top three things: money,
Mm-hmm.
governance, and personhood.
That's right.
Believe it or not, whether you're watching this in the United States today or anywhere in the world, you have very little control over the outcomes of those things right now. And we want to show you, one, that you don't, but two, that there are ways that you can.
That we can. Well, as a community of people, we need to do this collectively. So yes.
Right. And by the way, if you go to the NSA search engine and you look up parallel economy, they will tell you that that's the black market and all bad things happen. We normally joke with people and say, well, bad things happen on the regular market. What are you saying?
What are you saying? Isn't the government kind of running the black market? And if the black market went under, I mean, our economy would probably collapse because it's probably a bigger market than our white market.
Right. In many countries, the parallel economy, the shadow market, the gray market, or the black market are more trusted than the government because the government's corrupt. People say, look, we do a good enough job working peer to peer. Between me and you, we can do a deal without having a nanny.
In Southern Africa, they use mostly a trade and barter currency. They don't even use their country currency because they don't trust their currency.
Tells you a lot, right?
A lot.
Yeah, I don't think that that's just limited to those places that you hear about on the news, because that's happening all over the place.
That's right.
Right. All right. So now everybody's defined.
Correct.
Well defined. Excellent. Let's talk about the impacts of technology on your money. Is everybody like, what's going on with my money, honey?
That's right.
Right. So let's get to it. I want to introduce you to Pippa Malmgren. We ripped this from the headlines. Okay. Sorry, I always do that when we talk about her because she's just kind of scary, right? Pippa Malmgren is a top economist around the world.
Mm.
I would like to point out that she is at the World Government Summit in this picture.
That's important.
Yeah, really important. Who knew that we needed a World Government Summit?
Mm-hmm.
But apparently this happens every year.
Mm-hmm.
And people from around the world, these 10-pot dictators, get together and tell you what you're going to do.
That's right.
How you like that, right?
Nope.
So take a look here. This is from the end of March, right? So she says, quote, "We're about to abandon traditional system of money and replace it with digital blockchain." There's more. Take a look at this quote. "We are on the brink of a dramatic change. We are about to abandon the traditional system of money and replace it with a new one, digital blockchain CBDC, that's central bank digital currency, which will give us greater clarity over every single transaction."
So,
oh boy.
So if the audience doesn't know already, I mean, they're already triangulating like where you live, how you're using your credit card, your banking information, where you're spending your money and stuff like that. So they're already trying to figure out who you are, your social media, of course,
Yep.
right? Now they're just going to make it official. So now they're going to be able to triangulate everything in your life and then be able to control everything in your life.
And people have said to us, "Oh, come on, guys, now you're being Big Brother on us." And we're like, well, Big Brother's already here.
Yeah.
Now they're just trying to turn the screw.
Right.
They've got you in the coffin. Now they want to seal it.
Right.
Right. You guys have to understand what this means. When you lose control of your money and your ability to transact, or they tell you what you can and can't do, it's game over.
That's right.
We'll get to that a bit later when we talk about what's going on in China. But just keep that in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we've got some video clips that are going to blow you away. And the very first one addresses, of all things, cash. Then we're going to go into a couple of other things. But guys, buckle your seatbelt, I guess is a good description.
Yep.
Let's go.
We tend to establish the equivalence with cash. And there is a huge difference there. For example, in cash, we don't know, for example, who's using a $100 bill today. We don't know who is using a 1,000 peso bill today. A key difference with the CBDC is that central bank will have absolute control on the rules and regulations that will determine the use of that expression of central bank liability. And also we will have the technology to enforce that. Those two issues are extremely important, and that makes a huge difference with respect to what cash is.
Where were you on March 9th, 2022, when President Biden signed the death warrant on American freedom? On that day, in a hush ceremony at the White House, without the approval of Congress, the states, or the American people, Biden signed into law Executive Order 14067. Buried in his order are a few paragraphs titled Section 4. The language in Section 4 makes Order 14067 the most treacherous act by a sitting president in the history of our republic, because Section 4 sets the stage for legal government surveillance of all U.S. citizens, total control over your bank accounts and purchases, and the ability to silence all dissenting voices for good. On March 26, 2022, Fox News sounds the alarm. Biden Order 14067 is a truly remarkable and deeply troubling development.
Do you feel like you're sounding the alarm
Yes.
for people that don't understand what the is going on?
So here, I've pulled it up for you here, yeah? So there's the video.
Yeah.
I don't know if your camera can see that, but
No.
there's the video. There's him speaking about it.
The G7 is launching a set of public policy principles for retail central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. Central bank digital currencies could be a digital version of money, a bit like a digital banknote that could be used alongside physical notes and coins. Unlike most of the digital money people use daily today, it would be issued directly by a central bank, like the Bank of England in the UK.
Right, so that's the guy who runs our economy in the UK. His name's the Chancellor of the Exchequer. And here is the article. Bank of England tells ministers to intervene on digital currency programming. Yeah. And here's a quote from the article. This is in the Telegraph, the one he pulled up, but it was behind a paywall. So I'll just read the quote. Digital cash could be programmed to ensure it is only spent on essentials or goods which an employer or government deems to be sensible.
Holy.
I'm going to take it one step further for you, Joe, right? So the vaccine passport infrastructure is in place. But now we know that the vaccine doesn't stop infection or transmission, but the checkpoint Charlie exists everywhere. They bring in digital banking, central banking digital currencies. You've got a scenario now that you're checking in and out everywhere you go using vouchers that are programmed and you can only spend where you're told you can spend them.
Yeah.
There's another word for that, man. That's called the Chinese social credit system.
That's scary.
That's a lot to unpack, right?
So they can see everything. They have total control. They own all the technology. They can manipulate the technology for it to do what they want it to do. Turn on your money, turn off your money.
Well, and so the thought of cryptocurrency or decentralized finance, where the government isn't involved, scares the government to death, right? Anything decentralized. Slim, the first guy there, who's in charge of the International Bank of Settlements, first he attacked cash. He said, well, someone could commit a crime with $100 in cash and we wouldn't know it. So we need to be able to track all of this stuff. Then Jim Rickards talked about the executive order that Joe Biden signed in March for the central bank digital currency. And then the incredible presentation from the gentleman in the UK, just really tying it together and showing you that the intention of one thing, there's usually an intention behind the intention.
So normally it's what they tell you versus why they're really doing it.
Exactly right.
Like the propaganda, how they're marketing it to you.
Exactly right. And speaking of cryptocurrencies and this whole thing right now, an expose that we're doing right now on a bellwether case in the United States for cryptocurrency, the U.S. versus Randall Crater, we have an example of government agencies colluding
That's right.
and conspiring and basically picking winners and losers.
That's right.
So the Commodities Future Trading Commission is working with the Department of Justice, the DOJ, and the FBI, and the SEC, the Security and Exchange Commission, to pick winners and losers in these cases. And in the case of Randall Crater, here's a guy that basically has been convicted of a crime for owning a business he didn't own, right? With a cryptocurrency that actually existed. And these guys managed to suppress evidence. So the people who are actually guilty have disappeared.
Right.
And this guy was left holding the bag.
So no control over technology, no control over the company, doesn't own the company, but yet is the one who's being convicted for it.
Yeah, it's scary. I mean, look, we just pulled this example. So Patricia Gomersall was a lead investigator for the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, 31 years of experience. She's an expert witness. When we looked at her full deposition, they put her on the stand and asked her questions. And when they asked her, well, what was your source for this? She said, oh, I read it on the internet. So the source for an expert in a case where someone's life is on the line.
I read it on the internet.
I read it on the internet, or I don't know. Well, then why would you answer that way? Like, this is where we're at today.
So what also I find very scary about the situation is that they go after person number one, they corrupt the courts, they find this person convicted, then they use that case for the next case, do the same thing with that case, right? And there were like 4 or 5 cases that led up to how they tried to go after, Randall. And I'm just sitting here going, you want to talk about the weaponization of a system that's supposed to protect us and maintain our sovereignty. That alone should make everybody just start freaking out about how they're able to legislate themselves into power. I'm going to say that all the time. They legislate themselves into power. That's scary because it's a creep. Little by little, they start taking it.
And what you saw in those videos is the incremental creep they've been doing the last 20 or 30 years.
That's right.
Right? The thing with the Crater case is that the CFTC has raised billions of dollars in funding for that agency based on this case.
That's right.
And it's a lie.
It's a lie.
Wow.
They're using our money. Like the 87,000 IRS agents, they're using our money to do this against us.
They've weaponized your money against you. And they're like, well, you're not going to do anything about it, so don't worry. right? Right?
Yeah, we're watching.
So when you look at what actually happened in this criminal case, before we move on, is that basically what this sets precedent for cryptocurrency, yes, but it also puts you in a position where if you write someone a check, you could be prosecuted for running an illegal money service business. How scary is that?
Well,
It's like the book 3 Felonies a Day. This doctor, very smart, put this together and said there are so many laws and rules and things that don't make sense. There's so much bureaucracy that most people commit at least 3 felonies in a day and don't even realize it.
that's right.
Wow.
Talk about government overreach.
Oof. Okay, so let's move on here. Let's talk about the impacts of technology on your governance. And so a lot of people say, well, should that be government?
No.
No. Government is the function. That's the execution, right? Governance is who watches the watchers. So here in the United States, this is a constitutional republic.
Not a democracy.
Not a democracy.
Oh.
And it is a representative form of government. That means that we, the people, elect people to represent our interests either
right.
in our city level, our county level,
right.
our state level, or the federal level.
Right.
And we're responsible for holding those people accountable.
Right.
They work for us. That's why you'll never hear me use the term authorities.
Right.
Right?
They're servants.
They're public servants.
That's right. They're public servants.
If you actually look at a police car in any city or whatever, it says to protect and serve. It doesn't say to authority.
Right.
That's really important. And any person in law enforcement or in the legal profession or in government of any kind who's really about their sand and really knows what their role is will tell you exactly the same thing.
Right.
And if they don't, you can correct them on it because they work for you.
That's right.
So let's take a look at it here. A couple of things ripped from the headlines, as we love to do. This from side.org. So algorithm predicts crime a week in advance, but reveals bias in police response. What did you say to me the other day?
What?
It feels like that was in a movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously.
The movie Minority Report.
That's right.
Came out in like 2001. It basically, these algorithms, precogs, were able to predict future crime. So they knew you were going to do it before you did it. They came and they got you.
So you have to be worried about what you're thinking because they can hear what you're thinking, your intentions.
Right. And on that, like we poke a lot of fun at China because they're basically a totalitarian surveillance state. But look at what they've done. So you could be in the ruling party in China and you enjoy all the luxuries and comforts and everything. But now they'll be able to test your loyalty. So it's one thing to be a member of the ruling party, but are you really a member? Do you really believe it?
So now they can get you on a crime and it's intent. So let's say you actually hurt somebody, but they didn't catch you beforehand. And they can say, but your intent was, but let's say they're manipulating the technology. And let's say you had no intent. And they're just trying to blackmail you.
The person in power, because China's a one rule system, the ruling party is ran by basically Xi Jinping as a dictator, right? Decides, I don't like you today. He did something, didn't he? Yeah, that's what the algorithm said. Kill him. Now they're going to do it at the highest levels to make sure, because much like in 1984, it's all about the party, right? When they always say, like the Communist Manifesto, it's always about the revolution. It's not about the issue, it's about the revolution. This is true.
This is crazy.
So on that note, let's actually take a peek at what's happening in China. This one was really interesting. Let's go to the tape.
They're constantly monitored by facial recognition cameras that are able to instantly put a face to a name. Now the Chinese are also ranked, given a mark out of a possible 950 points. A score in the 700s is considered good. Around the 500 mark is not. For now, the number is a sort of bank credit rating, keeping track of everyone's spending habits.
I think being ranked is a good thing. A society has to have rules.
It forces us to be well behaved.
It may seem scary, but it's just like that here. We're used to it. And anyway, we don't have a choice.
It forces us to be well behaved.
We don't have a choice.
You'll get used to it.
Yeah. Well, we should have rules. You guys notice the indoctrination that's going on there? What's gone on in China? Right? There's no going back.
That's right.
We give people the example. So the gentleman from the UK, the broadcaster who told you about Checkpoint Charlie and this whole thing. So now what happens is that, Juliana thinks about crossing the street on a red light in China. She doesn't do it, but she thinks about it. She crosses the street, but then she sees her social credit score went down. When she asks why, they say, oh, you thought about crossing the street on a red light. Juliana wants to drown her sorrows with beer and pizza, which she doesn't do. That's Mormon. But then she goes in, she can't buy anything because she's been a bad girl.
That's right.
Then a family member's sick across the country and she can't travel because now her movement is restricted because she was a bad girl because she thought about crossing the street on a red light.
Wow.
That's why we, the other gentlemen, we're sounding the alarm on this, guys. You have to understand this stuff is scary. And anything that's independent from that system scares governments to death.
That's right, because then they lose control over us.
Yeah. Wow. All right, let's continue. Oh boy.
This gets worse.
It does get worse. So this guy, Yuval Harari, is a scientist and professor, professed atheist and gay. Okay. That is in essence a futurist. In a very strange way. He's connected with the Great Reset and Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum, which we'll see in a minute. But listen to what he says here. It's going to shake you, but just listen to what he says in these clips.
No, I think maybe in a couple of decades when people look back, the thing they will remember from the COVID crisis is this is the moment when everything went digital. And if this was the moment when everything became monitored. That we agreed to be surveyed all the time, not just in authoritarian regimes, but even in democracies. And maybe most importantly at all, this was the moment when surveillance started going under the skin. We need to realize that humans are now hackable animals. You can hack them.
Wow. So surveillance went under the skin. Digital surveillance now, not just in authoritarian regimes, but in quote unquote democracies.
And it went under the skin, so now they can really control you.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, we're hackable animals. That's going to make sense in a minute when we go into personhood. But listen to the tone and the terms that are used. When we do special group training and we get people's mindset right so that they can go out and speak against this, so they can grow their groups, one of the things that we share with them is you have to understand that these power brokers around the world, like a Harari, who's a useful tool, or a Klaus Schwab, or, pick your villain, right? Because there's so many of them. The first thing that you have to understand is that they don't even consider you to be human.
That's right.
They consider you to be chattel, right? So you're useful, or you're a piece of meat, right? You're a slave, basically, a serf. And so you're a hackable animal. If we don't like what you have, we can change you, or we can eliminate you.
So just like God. So if we were to insert the fact that Karl Marx did not like God, right? Hated God, and also said that, there was going to be he was going to have a hard time infiltrating America because of their faith and their belief in God, right? So now they're trying to behave, this technology, trying to behave like God. We're supposed to look at it like God. We're supposed to control us like God.
That's the whole term when you hear transhumanism. That's what these people are talking about. They want to merge with machines and live forever.
That's right.
Right? Because the prevailing belief is they want to be God. They believe that they are gods.
That's right.
Right? But deep down in their spirit, which they have in some form, they know that if they cross over, they're going to hell.
Right.
Let's just be honest, right? And it's like, well, I don't want to do that.
Well, like God said, this is not a war of, this world. It's a, principalities.
Yep. I mean, it's crazy to think about. This is how people talk about you that have control over the outcomes. Okay, just so you know. All right. So let's keep rolling. Let's look at the impacts of technology on your personhood, right? And this actually goes to what our dear friend, Pastor Paul Blair at Liberty Church Edmond talks about a lot. He talks about the different levels of government, right? So there's self-government, your sovereignty, your personhood. You have government or governance over yourself. Right. Then there is family government, the family unit, and that leads to church government. What happens with the church body, because it was for a long time, and it needs to go back to this, that the church was at the center of the community, right? then civil government. So the logic of the founders of the United States is that you needed a very small civil government because the other three governments worked the way that they were supposed to.
That's right.
Right? You didn't have all of the issues that we have now. And it's interesting that you can trace them back to all the other forms of government that are supposed to work and aren't working.
Right. So as of right now, the civil government literally attacked the church, the family, and the person.
Right.
Right. And tore all of that apart so that it could manipulate and do what it wanted to do, and became bigger and bigger to the point where now we're looking at families that are not together, people that are under the control of what's happening here.
Yep.
Communities aren't able to, work, function the way we're supposed to because the church is not involved the way they're supposed to be. They're trying to take, split the government and the church. But, like Pastor Paul Blair always says, what part of Jesus is not Lord over? He's Lord over every part of your life. If that's true, then your preacher should be talking about every part of life, every part.
Yeah.
Because I want to know from a biblical perspective what's happening, right? I don't want the media to tell me what's happening. I want my church to tell me. I want to look through the Bible and then say, this is what's happening currently in my world, because that's most important.
So if you're asking yourself why, that's the right question. To whatever your question is, why is this happening? That's the right question. Right. Let's take a look at the impacts of technology on your personhood. And what we just talked about is going to make even more sense for you. Everybody recognize that thing? Okay, so that's Bill Gates. And he's holding a shot and a vaccine, right? Here is what he was on video saying, right? And I'm going to highlight this part. So he's basically talking about the COVID vaccine here. But look at what he says in the red box. With RNA and DNA, instead of putting that shape in, you put instructions in the code to make that shape. What are we shaping, Mr. Gates? Right? So here's the thing. People have said, well, the COVID vaccine is crazy. The COVID vaccine doesn't change your DNA. But if you understand what RNA does, that's the door. That opens the door. So what is Gates saying here? What codes are you putting in to make shapes? Can you make them later? What's going on?
Did you make a chip after you've given me the shot? Because there's...
Right. So this may sound like crazy talk to people, but literally, this is what he said. Is there a need to make a change to the shape of someone's DNA or RNA or anything for that matter? Why are you doing that? Right? We've talked to people about nanotechnology and nanobots. We won't go all the way down that road now, but there is the capability to get these miniature robots in your body to take care of something.
Right.
But what we don't know is what else they're programmed to do.
Exactly.
And that's where stuff like this becomes dangerous. Right? And look, a lot of this is on record. Bill Gates' track record in places like India and countries in Africa isn't really good.
Hasn't he been kicked out of countries too, where he's not allowed to be there or something?
Yeah, I believe it was India actually tried to prosecute him.
Wow.
for crimes related to vaccines. So I mean, you guys can go look at that yourself. We don't have to give you the whole story, but understand here, words matter.
Right.
We do an entire presentation on words matter, entire workshop. Why? That's the right question. Yeah. All right. Look, let's go to some video. Here.
Right. It's triggering.
Yeah, it is triggering.
Oh, so yeah, warning. So this video, we've shown it to a couple of people, and they got really triggered when they saw it because this video impacts everybody.
So that's part two. Part one, we're actually going to see our friend, our friend Klaus.
Okay, I got nervous. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
And you see, the difference of this fourth industrial revolution is it doesn't change what you are doing. It changes you. If you take a genetic editing, just as an example, it's you who are changed. And of course, this has a big impact on your identity.
Dr. Schwab, I'm flattered you'd asked me to keynote. There's an expression in my old neighborhood back in the United States. This may be above my pay grade. It's not above yours, though. You've written extensively on the topic that you've asked me to speak to, mastering the fourth industrial revolution.
So I do apologize. You're right. That first part was a bit triggering.
So as a citizen of the United States of America, I want to know how the World Economic Forum has any control over what's happening here.
Yes.
Because that to me is very triggering. Like, who are they? Where do they come from? Who elected them? Do they have my sovereignty in mind, or their own agenda on their mind?
So a quick dot connect for you. Klaus Schwab was mentored by Henry Kissinger, former Secretary of State of the United States, and the guy actually responsible for the US dollar coming off the gold standard.
Connecting some dots there.
Yeah. So just unpacking a bit, because some people may not have heard the term Fourth Industrial Revolution.
Yes.
This is a plan from the World Economic Forum, and it's really the Internet of Things, or the Internet of Devices or Bodies. So what does that mean? If you have a smart refrigerator or a smart device in your home, it's connected to the internet, right? So your fridge may tell you that you're low on milk when you're on the way home.
Right.
Hey, do you want to order some milk? Do you want Amazon to deliver it and put it in your fridge, which is kind of spooky? You know, or you should probably grab some, right? That is a smart device. That is an Internet of Things, right? So your body can be designed the same way. I'm not wearing it right now, but I was wearing a device, right? Smartwatch, right? That's the Internet of Things. It's monitoring body function and steps and stuff like that. Those are the baby steps. What Klaus Schwab is talking about in the first clip is that the fourth industrial revolution is not going to be what you consider. It's going to be you.
That's right.
You are hackable. As Harari said, you are a hackable animal.
Well, he said, you know, we change you, who you are. Well, if they change you, then they can own you, right? Because then you become a GMO, just like a tomato.
Right. So you could not patent a human being unless
you change something.
Then you can. Then you could own it or them. It's kind of scary, isn't it?
Very.
So we talked about the technology, like nanotechnology and stuff like that, and things being inserted into you, right? And what they can do. We found a video from 2016 at Rice University where they actually showed the next step in evolution of what that could look like. So we're going to play this, and then we're going to talk a bit after.
It is triggering.
It is a bit triggering. Just trigger warning for you. Okay.
What we've designed, and we've done this very, very quietly, but we're glad to now release it to the world, is this idea of Tesla-phoresis, which is a discovery we made several years ago, and we've been developing it. And Tesla-phoresis is, the simplest way to understand it, is self-assembly at a distance, just long distance assembly of materials. And what we did was, because we're at Rice, we had plenty of nanotubes around, so we decided to use nanotubes. And what we discovered was that these nanotubes can actually string together and form wires by themselves under this electric field.
This fundamental idea of force acting at a distance, that you can have, instead of, you know, when you normally build circuits and things like that, you have to have physical contact. Now we're talking about building circuits without actually touching them.
All right, we're just dispersing this. Power on, and then up. I realized that a Tesla coil could actually do this if you designed it in a way to create a very strong force field in front of it. And so that was the engineering aspect of it. And then once I designed the machine, then all sorts of discoveries started falling out of it. Oh, that was a good one.
Tesla-phoresis is one of those things, it's a project that there are just so many avenues, so many things that I think you can do with it. Not just making conductive wires, but taking it in so many different places, not only just biomedical and engineering, but taking it into different industries like silicone chips or exploring different conductive materials.
This also ties in just generally in nanotechnology that self-assembly is very big. That is, if you can get things to build themselves, just as in biology, we build ourselves.
When my son saw it, he called them webs. You know, he thought it was like Spider-Man shooting webs out. And it really is. It's very much like a web sort of stringing out together. And that was a surprising finding. And the physics of that is actually a lot richer than what we had originally thought. So there is new science coming out of this as we go.
Self-assembly at a distance.
Right. Biomedical uses. So in essence, if you have a circuit in a machine, now you wouldn't have to have someone come out, you wouldn't have to get a new part, it'll just fix itself. It can be triggered by a Tesla coil or something else to just basically repair itself or to spread. Something could spread, like you're seeing the metals in this video. They can spread.
Makes you question about 5G and whatnot, huh?
Among other things. I mean, so just so people understand, the technology behind sound cannons to break up riots has been in existence forever. Bose created that technology. The government has it, right? And they'll use it at times. You ever wonder why there's a mass crowd and all of a sudden people just freak out and take off? Well, they just crap their pants, right? And now they're like, oh my God, what's happening with me?
Right.
Because at the right sound frequency, you can make the body do things.
Right.
Right? So what's really going on here? If we've connected dots with this video to the other videos, what's actually happening?
Control on a cellular level.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, they can make a microchip with this right in your body.
Yep. Yep. And that technology is actually being used today. They're using it to send microdoses of medicine to a particular area. That's the thing.
Right.
But they're already saying, look, this can be used for all types of applications.
So when I'm thinking about this video, it was made in 2016.
Yep.
That was 6 years ago.
Yep. So where do you think that's at now?
I don't know, but this is what makes me nervous. Like I'm sitting here like saying, you know, as a community, what are we doing?
Right.
How are we addressing this?
Right.
What's next? I've got people coming to me going, Julianna, what's really happening? What do I need to know? What are we doing? How do we, you know? And I keep saying we need to create the nation state. That's why we started down the road of saying, you know, we're going to need the different people. We're going to need the different industries. We're going to need, you know, to be able to be self-sustaining and stuff like that. Because, you know, this fourth industrial revolution, this is us, the people, against the World Economic Forum and the WHO.
And it's everywhere.
And it's like literally, but you know what? It's not just us talking about it in the United States of America.
Right.
Right? Because we're like 5 years behind. That's why when Brexit happened, like I knew Trump was going to get in because Brexit. England was like, wait a minute, this you know EU situation, like this ain't working for us, you know, because you've got too much control. The EU was literally a usurpation of all these different countries, and they took over like there's a brand new government. So they were building a brand new government that we were going to be under. Like, who created the police force? You know, the laws and like under what jurisdiction is this happening here? You know, the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, that was a treaty that usurped our Constitution. So, like, literally, they've been trying to little by little stripping our rights and taking everything away from us. And there comes a point where we have to say, as a people, what in tarnation is going on? Right? These small organizations that make, you know, declarations that are just preposterous, and we're supposed to bow down to that? No, I think the rest of the people around the world are saying we're done.
Right.
We're done.
Well, so think about some of the terms, right? Like with the TPP, for instance, my question was simple. If it's so good, why was it all negotiated in secret?
Exactly.
Why not tell the whole world?
And
it's so awesome.
And if it was so good, NAFTA should have been good also. But NAFTA was terrible for the United States. So somehow the TPP is supposed to be better for us?
Ross Perot knew before anybody else. I mean, the other one is the Nancy Pelosi classic. We have to pass it before we can read what's in it. Well, if it's so good,
right,
wouldn't you be screaming from the rafters, let me tell you everything about this? Why would you need to pass it so you can see what's in it?
Talk about total control.
Yikes. So guys, look, we always talk about the plane ride being a little bumpy. That's why you fasten your seatbelt. But we also talk about the facts, right? Our job, sure, that's Sherlock's job. Good, bad, or indifferent. This is what we do. So let's talk solutions. Let's have some good news. Huh? So let's get to the thing, right? Buckmeister Fuller said it best. You use this quote all the time.
You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete.
And nation states aren't new. Parallel economies aren't new, but now they're more necessary than they've ever been.
But it's how we put the nation state together.
Exactly
right. Because when the federal government's been in control, we've had to bow down to big corporations like a Walmart, for example. You know, we're in lockdowns, and the small guys, we had to close our doors, but Walmart could be open. What?
Yeah.
What? And
why?
Why? And how is it that the government got to tell us who closed and who was open and stuff like that? We have our own nation state, right? We have our own people. We're doing things in the municipalities, right? And we're one-on-one, trading and bartering, using gold and silver, doing things together to help and support the community at large, because we together can do what needs to get done. We don't need big government to do it. So let's create the new model.
Yeah. So you know what? Let's talk about it.
Building a nation
state building. So what do you need? You need governance, right? Governance solutions. What are the solutions? What do they look like? Let's start at the start. You need a great community hub, right? A town hall.
A town hall.
Right? So why? Well, we talked about the lab.
Right.
The lab. Our project, and as we grow it, is a town hall.
That's right.
Right? So you think to yourself, well, why would I need that? Well, we'll give you an example of how important town halls and community hubs actually are. Historical fun from the United States. Okay. In the 1770s, the Sons of Liberty got together and they needed a place to meet. They needed a town hall and a community hub to discuss what would become the War for Independence and to plan, right? So that place was in New York City on Pearl Street. Fraunces Tavern became famous as a meeting place for the Sons of Liberty, right?
Nice.
You think about it, and it was dedicated like it's a historical monument to the formation of the United States.
Because things happened there.
Yeah.
Important things happened there.
Right? So they met to plan, but they also met to fellowship. Like minds, desire for sovereignty, unified people. They met all the requirements of a nation state. So throughout the Revolutionary War, Fraunces Tavern was known as that place. And there's actually a great story. The owner actually thwarted a plot to assassinate George Washington.
Oh.
Somebody was trying to get to him.
My history buff guy.
I know, right? So you think about it, that sounds pretty important, right? Here's how much it meant to the country. When General George Washington was going to resign his commission as commander of the Revolutionary Forces, he got his top leaders together on December 4, 1783 at Fraunces Tavern to give his speech and to say goodbye to them. And this artwork depicts that moment because he told everyone and he gave his speech before he went to Annapolis and basically resigned. But then he took each one of them to the side and talked to them individually at Fraunces Tavern. So you talk about the importance of a town hall. In addition to all of that, it became housing for the Continental Congress of the United States. And it was the headquarters for the Department of Foreign Affairs, the Department of the Treasury, and the Department of War.
Kind of important, huh?
Right? If you don't think a meeting house and a community hub is important,
they did.
I beg to differ, right? That's why the lab exists. Can you imagine as part of your nation state, right? Because think about it like this. We're no different than this. It's no different now than it was then.
That's right. Well, that's why when we had 1 million cups and we kept saying we need a place where we can meet and talk and make money together and do programs together and teach each other. You know, the whole concept of the lab was, you know, developed from that. I didn't realize at the time, we didn't realize how important it was. We didn't know about the tavern and what happens once upon a time.
Right.
But I was at a Rotary meeting and somebody stood up. We had a politician that was talking. And one of the members stood up and was like, you know, we need a meeting house. We need a place where we can meet and talk about what's happening in our community. And boy, did that not just spark a light bulb in my head. Because I'm like, you know, if we had a place to be able to do business together, be able to talk about what's happening in our community, be able to help each other.
Yeah. And look, the reality is it doesn't take much. So take a look at our diagram. We'll show you our diagram of what we came up with. So Julianna talked a little while ago about the Give Foundation. At the core, we started off protecting the genius and person of young people.
So that's the Give Foundation.
That's the Give Foundation, right? So then we said, wait a minute, what if we create an environment for entrepreneurs to create economic opportunity?
That's right.
Entrepreneurship saves the world.
Well, the mom and pop shops, the Main Street companies, were the ones that employ most of the people. 99% of the people that are employed by the U's and the me's.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so thus the creation of the lab that drives it. That's the town hall.
That's right.
That's the community hub to make that happen.
That's right.
And you see if we combine community and business solutions, we change billions of lives.
That's right.
Here's what's happened to us, right? We talked about our relationship with Pastor Blair at Liberty Edmond. They have the Liberty Pastors Movement. So they are pastors training pastors all over the country. And where we're aligned is that the church, the church body should be at the center of the community. So this is like a satellite for Liberty Church. And we have a Liberty Church here in the greater Orlando area. but it's outside of the four walls.
That's right.
Right? The ministry and what you do is different for everyone, but it brings people to the same place.
Well, once upon a time, we had to work together as a community to be able to survive.
Right.
I'm not that old, but I'm old enough to remember that, in Brooklyn, we didn't have a grocery store. I didn't know what a grocery store was. I mean, I had my cart and I would go down to the main avenue and I went to my fish store, the meat market, the veggie store, the bodega, and I picked up what I needed and I took my cart and I, took to my fanny home, right? And then one day my mother goes, we're going to go to the grocery store. And I'm like, what's a grocery store? Yeah. But that's the way it should be. It should be everything that's local, not going to the big chains and whatnot. Go to your local butcher. Somebody who has a cow that you want to be able to buy.
Yeah.
Go to your farm. Thank you. My brain just went.
Yeah, meat farmer. So when we look at this with this kind of lab and liberty concept, we're able to expand nationally. We work when we all work together.
That's
right. We've got nation states that come together to do that work. You get that same result because that being the center also feeds community and business solutions, which changes billions and billions of lives. Right. You are entirely capable. This model is not overly complicated.
Nope.
Right. But you see the importance of the town hall and the community hub. Right. So for community hub and town hall, we said we have recommendations. We certainly have them. Do a favor for us. Go to icovermyassets.com. And what we want you to do, fill in the form and then check the town hall box.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about you in the box below and then click submit so that we can talk because we want to help you to do that. And for those of you who are super technically savvy and don't want to type all that in, just go ahead. We'll give you a minute with the QR code here. Get that up and it'll pull up the site for you and you can fill in that information. We'd love to talk to you.
Absolutely.
We found some stuff that works and we want to share it. We're excited that you're excited.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. So we continue on. Personhood solutions. Before we get to the solution, though, a little bit of rip from the headlines. We talked about this. We saw it in the videos, right? Researchers develop a smart mask to monitor vital health signs. All right. A smart face mask that can monitor vital health signs based on the nature of a cough.
So they're going to predetermine if something's wrong with you too.
Yep.
Or they're going to make up that something could be wrong with you.
In that red box, if you can't see it, this falls into the field of bioelectronics, which uses wearable technologies to alleviate health issues.
That's way too much control.
Yikes. You want to see some more? How about this one? Scientists design new inks for 3D printable wearable bioelectronics.
So what does that mean?
So when they rolled out the COVID vaccine passport, one of the plans that was on the table was to have an ink that you couldn't see with the eye, but you could see under a certain light. It was going to be put on you, and then there were little spikes that went in that did whatever they were going to do, and then you couldn't wipe it off or whatever, but then when you went under, they could see if you were vaccinated or not, right? And the only way you could get it is if you went through this process and did it. So it's already here, right? And they're advancing this stuff because they're like, well, what else can we do? What else can we track? What else can we deliver to you?
They're trying to make us into machines, huh?
Listen.
Have total control over us. And
hey, I know the cyborg type stuff is hard for people to tackle. So we actually went back a level because you're being tracked digitally, right? Your device, you got a phone or whatever, it knows more about you than you do, right? Company in Idaho, what they do is they track all your movement. So they take location data, geolocation data. Your phone is a beacon. Wherever you go, whatever. They roll all that up and they sell it for millions and millions of dollars to other businesses. So they sell your data.
Right.
Basically, right? The Federal Trade Commission said that these guys are putting unaware users at risk. This happens every minute of every day, and most people don't even realize it.
Nope.
Kind of scary, isn't it? So when you talk about good personhood platforms, you need platforms. What's needed if you're going to utilize a platform? 3 things came to us in our research. 100% encrypted. That means that if Julianna are having an encrypted conversation and somebody tries to bug in, it's just going to sound right. It's going to sound like that. I do my garble, right? And then it needs to be peer-to-peer. And all that means is that whatever transaction, whatever we're doing is between us. We don't have a third party. We don't have a government nanny or ninny or whatever in the way.
Right.
So it needs to be encrypted. It needs to be peer-to-peer, right? No artificial intelligence.
So that's the technology in the background running, garnishing all that information. So you'll not have a, you will know, you will find,
You might like.
It's
the old Amazon one.
Yeah.
Right?
So like, if you want to find somebody on the platform, you need to actually type in that person's name correctly. Otherwise that person is not going to populate.
Right. And freedom of speech.
That's right.
So this isn't a partisan issue. It doesn't matter what side of the fence you sit on. What's scary now is you don't know if what you're going to say is going to be something that gets you unpersoned or deplatformed.
That's right.
Right? And we always tell people that. It's like, don't make this a partisan issue. This is a real issue.
That's right.
And you need to be aware of it.
This is a human issue.
Right. It's a human issue. So in this area for platforms, we do have a recommendation, and our recommendation is the TFN family of products. So the Friends Network, TFN Media replaces Facebook, Twitter, Zoom, right? TFN Meeting is basically a Zoom alternative, right? And then TFN Debate is your virtual town hall to go along with your physical town hall when you build out a lab, which we know you're going to do really excited. So we certainly recommend these guys. They check all the boxes: 100% encrypted peer-to-peer, no artificial intelligence, and the freedom of speech that you actually need.
So even TFN doesn't know what it is that you're saying.
Exactly right.
Exactly.
And the private groups on that platform are incredibly powerful, because if you keep them private, there's no other way to find them. The only way they can find them is if you or someone in the network shares, and then they join and they're accepted.
Right. So we don't recommend Truth Social because.
So Truth Social, let me go ahead and put up the QR code if people want to get to TFN while we're talking. So Truth Social, I think many people know that the Trump family has an investment there, and they were going to take that company public through a reverse merger into a public company. I won't go into all that, but there have been issues, legal issues and financial issues. And so last week, when pressed on the question, Donald Trump said, well, I'm really rich. I don't need financing. So look, again, not a partisan issue, but just common sense.
So my concern also is the fact that, some of the code is open source.
Correct.
And they can still see everything that you're doing.
Correct.
They can still track everything that you're doing.
Correct.
So that makes me very concerned. Like I would at this point go, can I just have a private life even online?
Yeah, and they're trying to make it so you can't. Thanks to TFN, you actually can.
That's right.
So that's our recommendation there. Community sufficiency is an important one too, right? We talk about nation states and parallel economies. Look, if you want more control over the outcomes, there's things that you got to do. And so when we look at the headlines, natural gas up 700%. Congratulations, right? Could be a driving force for new Cold War. Wow. Natural gas, plenty of it.
Right.
Now the price is shot up because you can't get it out of the ground, right? Rolling blackouts in the Bay Area. So we're going to do electric. What was the joke you said yesterday?
What?
We're going to do electric cars, but we can't keep the lights on.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
So, I was reading an article today and was talking about how batteries don't produce any energy.
They store it.
It stores it. So what produces it? The coal. And I'm just sitting here going, really?
You can't make this stuff up.
You can't make this
stuff up, right? So if you just think it's happening in California, that's not the case. Midwest blackouts are you're in danger of that. And then our favorite that happened last week.
They must think we're really stupid.
Oh my God.
Like seriously, I think at this point you want to continue pushing cars, but now you're doing this over here and no.
So XL Energy in Colorado, residents in Denver got locked out of their smart thermostats because of an energy emergency.
Sure.
And what did you tell me yesterday? Like if you got one of those, they give you a discount?
$25 a month discount. So
So
you gave up some of your freedom for $25 a month. Knowing that they can manipulate your thermostat whenever they wanted to. I don't understand that.
But hey, you know what? Oh yeah, I love the smart home idea. I want it to be an Internet of Things.
No,
you don't.
That's the fourth, industrial revolution.
Don't do it.
If your enemy, Klaus Schwab, and the World Economic Forum is saying this is the fourth industrial revolution, right? Then who is he attacking?
So, I mean, there it is, ripped from the headlines, right? So here's what you need to be thinking about. Food, energy, and land use. Kind of look like that, right? So looking at alternatives like liquid natural gas and land, there are ways for you to do that, right? And we'll get into the recommendations in a second, but these are the things you primarily need to be thinking about, right? How are you going to eat? How are you going to power? How are you going to protect?
And how are we going to do that as a community?
And how are we going to do that as a community of people?
Because we can't all do that, We can do it singularly, but it'd be better if we could do that collectively.
Right. So as you build your town hall and all of these things, what like minds do you have together that have skills?
That's right.
For sufficiency purposes, and how can you guys work together? Because come what may, historically we've always seen this. Communities make it.
That's right.
Individuals don't.
Right.
Too much can go wrong. Right. So things you need to be thinking about. And we do have recommendations for you for sufficiency. Our friends at 4Patriots, they're a sponsor. When it comes to prep supplies, including their solar powered generators, because people have said, hey man, I need a generator, but I need gas and I need this and they're loud. And it's like, there's some times where you don't want to be loud with your power. You just want to have it and be quiet. Solar powered generators are great. They're rechargeable. They store energy and then use it, right? And they're super quiet.
Right.
4Patriots has an awesome deal. We always tell people you can get one, probably get two, so you got a backup, so you can always have one charging, right? So if you go to Sherlock.me/4Patriots or hit the QR code, you'll find the stuff there. And then when it comes to gardening, our friends at Food Forest Abundance have actually came up with the concept of a food forest.
Right.
So they'll do a blueprint for you, lay out based on the size that you want, get you the kit together, get it set up for you.
Right.
And then if you don't want to deal with the excess or whatever, they'll manage it and then sell off the excess and share the profits with you.
And it's self-sustaining.
And it's self-sustaining. If you hit the QR code, you can visit our friends, get more information, and get your blueprint for a food forest going. Because trust me, it's worth it. And then our friends at EMP Shield. So these guys are based in Kansas. And when we first met them, I was like, come on, there's just no way when it comes to electromagnetic pulse, right? That could be a high burst weapon that kills all of our energy. It could be ejection from the sun. The Carrington event was a giant ball of energy from the sun that fried all the telegraphs. It just blew them out, fried them, right? Just like that. There's no way you can stop that, right? Unless you put it in a big cage.
Right.
But the guys at EMP Shield, here's what they figured out. They built devices so that you can protect your vehicles, your home, your solar panels, and your generators. Right?
Yep.
Most amazing thing I've ever seen. Tried, true test. These guys are amazing, right? And got all the government approvals and everything. So I strongly recommend that you go check these guys out. Use the code avoid EMP, and we got you a discount because we love you and stuff.
Nice.
So there's our recommendations for sufficiency. When it comes to money, gotta talk about the money, honey.
Money.
Right? So be thinking parallel economy. And step one in that is trade and barter. And Juliana, you have an incredible history with trade and barter, yeah?
So I helped launch 2 trade and barter companies here in Orlando. One went defunct. The other one is still running beautifully. I'm very excited about them. But trade and barter is really important. Trade and barter is another currency, just like our fiat currency. Ha ha ha. You make money and you have to report that money. You have money in the account. It's a taxable event for you. So trade and barter is excellent to be able to have as a secondary type of income.
Right. The other one is cryptocurrency, and it's not the way that you're thinking, right? Because right now, everybody's like, "Oh, crypto's an upside or whatever," right? Be thinking tangibles, or cryptocurrencies that are backed by something, or a method of exchange within a community, or for a product or service.
So for Food Forest Abundance, he created a cryptocurrency, and he's backing his crypto with the food production.
Correct. So there's something tangible behind it. Folks that own LNG are doing the same thing. Liquid natural gas are doing the same thing with a coin that's backed by something tangible. That's the next evolution, guys. And this is why the government, like in the Crater case, are trying to control it, because they're scared to death with the fact that you can do whatever you want.
Well, because if you're technically the bank, even though you're not supposed to say you're the bank, but I mean, if you're creating the fees and getting all the fees, and the government's not, you're taking their income away. So
Uncle Sugar can't have their taste, and they're not happy.
That's why they want one currency.
Yep. The other one, tried and true, gold and silver.
Most important.
Sound money, God's money.
God's money.
Right? Been around 5,000 years. And what did you share with me that around the world?
It's the same price around the world. So, the gold amount is always the same. The price of your currency may change, right? But gold is always standard in every single country, which is very fascinating. So why are we using other currencies? If it's not backed by gold, but I know that Russia's now doing it.
They're backing the ruble with gold, yes.
Yep. There's a lot of countries that are now doing that.
Right, because sound money is really important.
That's right.
And they're trying to buy up as much gold as they can, these governments around the world.
That's right.
So in these areas, for powering the parallel economy, we've got recommendations for you. When it comes to that, our recommendation is what we've created, Sherlock Pay. So we knew that we needed to give like minds and communities a way to work out.
That's why I get for playing with it. I'll get the next one that I have to fiddle with.
Just so you guys know that, this is it. We're human. This is what happens. We're human, right? We're sitting in the studio and we're doing a podcast, right? So we knew that like minds and communities needed an alternative to the mainstream banking system. So it's really an alternative with its own debit card that works within its own system. In essence, you get a bank account out of this without all the rigmarole and having to worry about the government and everything like that. Seamless transfers. If you want to go cash to crypto to precious metals, you can do that seamlessly and instantly, and you can do it with multiple cryptocurrencies in and out, because that was something that people told us. And now that we're doing our advanced beta testing with people, they're really excited at the capability and the ability to do that. And then there are business and personal options. We've had some business folks come and say, can I do this for me and my employees? I want to run my business off of Sherlock Pay, or I'm a person and hey, look, I want to do that. You can do both. So if you want to sign up for early access, we're still taking early access. You can go to sherlockpay.com, or you can scan the QR code.
Lovely.
Yeah. When it comes to gold and silver, we're talking God's money. Our recommendation is Sherlock EZ, right? So here's the deal. Just like a Costco membership for gold and silver. We always joke with people. So Costco Gold and Silver got together, had a baby, and that created Sherlock EZ. So you get yourself a membership, you get access. That means best pricing and all of the other cool stuff. And you've got a ton of additional benefits on this thing too. So here's what we want you to do on that. Go to sherlockez.com or hit the QR code. You can learn more about it and get yourself signed up because it's worth it. And by the way, with Sherlock EZ, you could actually buy gold and silver fractionally, because not everyone has $1,800 right now for an ounce of gold, or even $30 for an ounce of silver. But if you have just $1, you can do that and own fractionally,
right?
And it's safe, and then you can build up, and when you want it physically delivered to you, you can get it.
Even gold-backed IRA too.
That is correct. Gold-backed IRAs. There's all kinds of cool stuff with Sherlock EZ. Go check it out. Okay?
Awesome. Yep.
So one more, when it comes to trade and barter, we talked about our recommendation, and you helped to build this, our friends at the Global Exchange.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's easy to use, easy to get started, a lot of education. You did a great job with that. It's a trusted authority. It's been around over 10 years.
Yes.
Right? And so there is the QR code to go to the Global Exchange.
So Chris Brown is the owner of the Global Exchange.
Yeah.
Love him. Highly, highly recommend him.
Yeah, and make sure to tell him that Sherlock and the Lab Orlando sent you.
Yes.
Yeah, make sure you tell me that we sent you. But guys, this is something that you need to look into. Our friends that have started doing this since we last presented it are very excited. And they're like, man, I don't know what took me so long. Why didn't I know about this earlier? Now I'm going to tell everybody.
That's right.
Guys, you want to have as many alternatives as possible.
That's right.
So, dear, it is time to land the plane. Right? So, guys, look, if you missed anything, go to icovermyassets.com. There's a QR code. Fill in the form. You can check the boxes for the thing you're interested in. Click submit. And then you'll get a note back from us thanking you. We'll stay in touch with you. Also, when you do that, you'll get an email from us that actually has an action plan blueprint for you. So everything we discussed in the podcast today will have links for you to get to everything. So you'll have your own battle plan.
Nice.
And you're ready to go just for going ahead and filling out that form.
Nice.
Awesome. One other thing before we go, join the movement. Right? If you go to yourparalleleconomy.com, we've actually created a community, as we mentioned at the beginning, where we can do all of this stuff. And we encourage you guys to join us because we do so much with education and we have experts that come in. I can't talk about who's going to be coming on future episodes of the podcast. They're going to be released to the community first, or we're going to do live streams with those people before they're released to the general public.
Well, I'm interested in seeing the different people come through the lab and say, you know, together we can do this program, or together we can make money this way, or together we can impact the community that way. Like that to me is really important. So when we talk about joining the movement, we're really talking about like-minded people that are saying, hey, I want a place to have some significance. I want to be able to help. I want to be part of something that's bigger than just me.
Yeah. So guys, as we wrap here, a big thanks to all of our sponsors, the Lab and the Lab Orlando are big ones. If you're looking to build your town hall and your community hub, or you're looking to host events or something unique in the Orlando area, visit thelaborlando.com. If you need market research or advanced technology, Sherlock AI has you covered. Just go to Sherlock, that's SHERLOC.ai for more information. Fill out the form. We'd love to talk to you. Also, big thanks to our friends at 4 Patriots as sponsors of the show. If you want the best deals on supplies, including the solar power generators, go to sherlock.me/4 Patriots for more information. And then if you need more information on EMP Shield, just go to the site there at icovermyassets.com and you can pick that up. So guys, thank you so much for joining us. Another successful episode in the books, ma'am. High five.
High five.
All right, guys, we love you and we'll see you soon.
Yes.
Yay! Dun 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 dun. Dun.